Introduction. This video is a part of series Digital Image Processing in Qt that will introduce how to implement some digital image processing mechanism in Qt. This tutorial is suitable for persons who's starting to study QML language or implement digital image algorithms.
In this video, we will introduce how to implement geometry operations such as image geometry features, file structure, DADIP geometry, DADIP warping, implement in DIPFeatures class, implement in GeometryControl.qml, StretchControl.qml, CropControl.qml, PasteControl.qml, WarpControl.qml, ObjectWarpControl.qml, implement in Common.js, implement in main.qml. Invert. Convert input image to negative by subtracting them from the number of gray. Level 0 becomes 255, 1 becomes 254. Geometry. It performs three basic geometric operations: displacement, stretching, and rotation. Stretch. It is enlarging and shrinking an entire image. Crop. Cropping is the removal of unwanted outer areas from a photographic or illustrated image. Paste. Copy the segment of image to another image. Warping. Image warping is the process of digitally manipulating an image such that any shapes portrayed in the image have been significantly distorted. Control point warping divides a section of an image into four smaller squares, quadrilaterals, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Object warping. Object warping is similar to but simpler than control point warping. Object warping transforms one quadrilateral to one square.
File structure.
DADIP geometry, DADIP invert. OP to invert the pixels in an image. Output image appear as negative. Implementation of OP to invert the pixels in an image. Create output empty image. Calculate number of bytes per pixel. Perform image invert. Create output empty image. API to perform three basic geometric operations: displacement, stretching, and rotation. Implementation of API to perform three basic geometric operations. DIPIP geometry. Calculate number of bytes per pixel. The following magic number is from 180 degrees divided by pi. Calculate stretch divide factors for horizontal. Calculate stretch divide factors for vertical. Perform geometric operations. DIP stretch. API to perform the processing to enlarge and shrink an entire image. Implementation of API to perform the processing to enlarge and shrink an entire image. Calculate new resolution. Create output empty image. Calculate number of bytes per pixel. Perform stretch operations. DIP crop. API to select the specific area of image. Implementation of API to select the specific area of image. Check the parameters are in range or not. Create output empty image. Calculate number of bytes per pixel. Copy input image 1 to output image. DIP paste. API to combine two input images inside one output image. Implementation of API to combine two input images inside one output image. Checking the valid of input arguments for combination. Get the area of second input image. Create output image with data from first input image. Calculate number of bytes per pixel. Copy cropping of second input image to output. Release the crop area of second input image. DADIP warping. DADIP warp. API to warp a section of an image by using control points. Implementation of API to warp a section of an image by using control points. Create output empty image. Upper left quarter. Upper right quarter. Lower right quarter. Lower left quarter. Warp loop. Internal function sets up the coefficients and loops through a quarter of the section of the image that is being warped. Calculate number of bytes per pixel. Set up the terms for the spatial transformation. Loop through a quadrant and perform the spatial transformation. DIP object warp. API to warp a section of an image by using four corners of a four-side figure. Implementation of API to warp a section of an image by using four corners of a four-side figure. Create output empty image. Sets up the coefficients and loops through an entire segment image. Full warp loop. Internal function sets up the coefficients and loops through an entire image that is being warped. Calculate number of bytes per pixel. Set up the terms for the spatial transformation. Loop through the image and perform the spatial Implement in DIPFeatures class. Add group of geometry features. Implementation of image invert. Implementation of image geometry. Implementation of image stretch. Implementation of image crop. Implementation of image paste. Create the second image output from 90-degree rotation of input image. Implementation of image warp. Implementation of ObjectWarp. Implement in GeometryControl.qml. Create GeometryControl.qml. Add properties to control geometry. Function to initialize controls. Add control for angle. Add control for X stretch. Add control for Y stretch. Add control for X displace. Add control for Y displace. Add control for X cross. Add control for Y cross. Function to update properties. Implement in StretchControl.qml. Create StretchControl.qml. Add properties to control stretch. Function to initialize controls. Add control for X stretch. Add control for Y stretch. Function to update properties. Implement in CropControl.qml. Create CropControl.qml. Add properties to control crop. Function to initialize controls. Add control for start row. Add control for start column. Add control for new height. Add control for new width. Function to update properties. Implement in PasteControl.qml. Create PasteControl.qml. Add properties to control paste. Function to initialize controls. Add control for start row of image 1. Add control for start column of image 1. Add control for start row of image 2. Add control for start column of image 2. Add control for new height. Add control for new width. Function to update properties. Implement in WarpControl.qml. Create WarpControl.qml. Add properties to control warp. Function to initialize controls. Add control for XCONTROL. Add control for control. Function to update properties. Implement in ObjectWarpControl.qml. Create ObjectWarpControl.qml. Add properties to control ObjectWarp. Function to initialize controls. Add control for X1. Add control for Y1. Add control for X2. Add control for Y2. Add control for X3. Add control for Y3. Add control for X4. Add control for Y4. Function to update properties. Implement in Common.js. Add name of features. Create group of geometry features. Add group of geometry features to list of all groups. Implement in main. Add processing for geometry features into execute DIPFeatures function. Build and execute.